This is probably the most requested feature from my clients when they want to set up a ClickUp workspace, tracking their users and employees' time. They want to make sure that everyone's able to track their time in ClickUp, and them as a manager have a report of the time tracked by their team. In this video, I'm going to give you a full tour of all the ClickUp time tracking capabilities. I'm going to show you 2 tools that I've built and that will help you track time and report time tracking so much faster through automated time tracking and through exports into Google Sheets of your time tracking data. If you want to know more about time tracking in ClickUp and make sure you don't miss any good practice, stay tuned and follow this whole video about ClickUp time tracking. If you don't know me already, my name is Ramzi. I'm a ClickUp verified consultant and founder of an agency called Upsys, where I will help businesses and agencies set up ClickUp, create automations, and build faster, optimized, efficient workflows and operations. If you're ready to follow me through the best practices of ClickUp time tracking, let's go. I'm going to start up by showing you the bare minimum you need to set up in your ClickUp settings to be able to track time. And we have a demo space here called Delivery. And if we right click on it and go to the space settings and Click Apps, we will have to make sure we enable the time tracking Click App. The time tracking Click App will let you track time in your tasks, and as soon as you have it enabled, if you go to any task within this list, you will be able to add a column called time tracked. I'll just search for time tracked and it'll be right there. I'm able to just click the play button and track time on any task. Now, if I click the stop button, the time is logged. And if I were to click the play button and go here on the top right, I can also get more details about the time I'm tracking and all the time I've tracked on previous tasks right here. And say I want to actually add some details on this SEO task. Let's say I'm actually setting web page headings. That's part of what would an SEO agency do. And then I can add a tag and say it's part of tech. And tags in time tracking are kind of a way to label your data. It could be related to a team, related to a type of work, any way you want to split up your work, either for you internally or for your clients. That can be super useful. And then I can decide if I want to make this time billable. So I can set it to billable, which would mean that later down the line in the timesheets and in the reporting, I can make sure that only my billable time is showing up. For example, I can then bill the client based on the whole time tracked for this client. We've logged some time here, and all I have to do is click the stop button, and that is done. I have logged time. And if you want to track time almost automatically, you want to download my Google Chrome extension called Save to ClickUp. All you have to do is type Save to ClickUp in Google, or you can directly download it from the link down in the description, and it'll be in the Chrome Web Store, and all you have to do is install it. Once it's installed, you can get to ClickUp, and then you can open up the extension. It will be the top right of your browser. I'm using a very specific browser, so I can search for it that way, and it'll actually pop up here on the top right. I've installed Save to ClickUp, connected it, and then I can pick a list if I want to. And you will have to go through all these steps. And if you want to know more about Save to ClickUp, there's dedicated videos about it you can watch. But we're just going to focus on time tracking right now. I'm going to enable a setting that lets me start the timer when I'm opening a task and stop the timer when I'm closing a task. And you're going to see that's super cool, because if I save the settings and refresh my screen, any task that I will open, it will just start the timer. I won't have to do anything. Say I'm working on the website design. I can only open up the website design milestone and the timer has just started. It started to play, and I'm actually logging time with my account on this task. So I can open that up if I want to. I can add more details, more tags. Like I said, I can set it as billable. I can say I'm working on the wireframes, and then the time is being logged. So if I click close and actually close the task, it will stop the timer because I've set it up in the Save to ClickUp settings. I can disable that if I want to. That way I can just navigate and it will keep logging the time, or keep it enabled and quickly switch from task to task, and the time will be logged task by task. That's how amazing Save to ClickUp is and how much it can save you time with just like opening and closing tasks and having time being logged automatically. This is optional, and you can enable and disable Save to ClickUp anytime you want. You can disable the settings. So let's disable them right there. But that's just a quick tip on how you can save yourself time by automatically logging time through Save to ClickUp. Now, another feature you want to enable in these settings, if we get right there, is the ability in the ClickUps to have aggregates of your time spent on tasks. If we go to the App Center and we search for ClickUps, we're going to go to the time section, which should be right here, time and resources, and we're going to enable the time estimates rollup. What this does is that it shows the overall time spent on a task by the amount of time spent on its subtasks. So if I get back to the workspace and actually I'm going to the ongoing tasks and right here, say I have some subtasks there on analytics, right? If I start logging time and store like an hour on this task and say like 3 hours on this task, not only is it going to log time on the subtask, but it's going to show me an aggregate, a rollup on the parent tasks. If I open up analytics, I will see that I have spent 4 hours on the analytics task. That's a super useful feature, especially if people start tracking time on subtasks, because it makes you agnostic of where people track time, whether it's on the parent task or on the subtask. You will have the sum of everything on the parent task anyway. Now, with that said, I want to give you a quick tip and a quick advice on how to get started with time tracking in ClickUp. You want to make sure that you're tracking time at the highest level possible at the parent tasks, ideally when you get started. And you want to let your team know that. Why? Because if you start micromanaging and micro-tracking tasks at the smallest levels, it's going to become a mess and your team is not going to be motivated into tracking time. So for some clients and some setups, I actually create a dedicated project list where I automatically create a project each time a new client project starts for an agency, and people log time on the project list, which is completely decorrelated and different from the actual tasks that we have to do for the client, like installing a Google Tag Manager or the website design or all the little actions. So there'll be a dedicated separate list for all the client projects as tasks, and people will just log their time on the client projects at the highest level. I set that up very often for agency that gets started with ClickUp. And if you're interested about scaling up your ClickUp usage, or you're just getting started with ClickUp and you want to set up the best practices, we can set up a ClickUp workspace that's fully operational, simple, and efficient for you with Upsys. All you have to do is book a discovery call and we'll get to understand your pains, your need, and how we can set up efficient time tracking, automations, and workflows that let your agency thrive on ClickUp. Now, with that said, and now that I've shown you all these settings and the best practices on how to track time, everything you can do around time tracking as a user, I'm going to start talking about timesheets. Timesheets are kind of the higher level where I can see where I'm tracking my time and where I can actually track my time over the week and get these table-like views. It's here on the left panel. If I click timesheets and I see where I'm logging my time. So these are a bunch of tasks in French. It's not super important, but I can see the time I'm tracking on my tasks. If we get here on this week of April 7th through April 13th, say I'm actually working on several tasks, I can just pick them up from here. It's going to bring in the most recent tasks I've been working on. I can actually search for other tasks. I could search for SEO if I wanted to and bring that in as well. You can see the location of the task. I've been working on SEO for these two clients, for example, and add those two tasks. I can actually add some others, and I can also add tasks from previous timesheets, which lets me quick access to the time I've tracked recently. That can be handy if you're like tracking and working on the same tasks from week to week. Let's start with this. Pretty simple. I'm gonna spend like 8 hours on all those tasks, okay? Fairly simple. I can actually say I'm spending 1 day, so I can put 1D, which will correspond to 1 day, because 1 day is 8 hours in ClickUp. I can set some as billable if I wanted to. Say I'm working 8 hours on this as well. Fairly simple. Okay, logging time here and click save. And here we go. We have some time tracked. Obviously, we have Saturday and Sunday, but I might not be working on Saturday and Sunday. What we could also do is set the weekly hours. If we set a weekly hour time of 30 hours, we will have some overload. But if we set 40 hours, for example, this will turn all blue. If I were to set 20 hours, half of this will probably be red, because this just shows you like supposedly how long you're supposed to work on tasks. And what I advise you to do is put 30 hours, because usually people work between 35 and 45 hours a week. That's just an average. Obviously, it might be different in your business, but this is just like kind of a way to actually focus on tasks. And there's always slack time in a business. There's time as at a coffee machine, at a meeting, somewhere you're actually not tracking time. In ClickUp, it's a little bit about being pragmatic and focusing on the 80% that matters. And it's okay if there's like that 20% of blurred zone of how much time I'm actually spending on tasks. So I've tracked some time on those tasks, and everyone can track time on those tasks. That means that I have my timesheet as Ramzi, the manager. But if I use another dummy account right here and start tracking some time on some tasks, either here from the task or from the timesheets, I can actually get there and add some tasks. Let's use similar ones. It's fine. It's not super important. And then let's add and log some time. This is some time spent here, maybe 8 hours here. And let's say this one is actually billable. I've been working overall like 43 hours this week. There's a bunch of tasks that I have here, and I've added a few. And this is my whole work from the 13th to the 19th. If I wanted to focus on the billable time only, based on the filter that we've set, I can focus on a certain tag. I could say like I only want design tasks, provided I've obviously labeled design on all the time tracked for design. I can also focus on all the time track that's above a certain threshold. If I don't want to see like micro time tracked, I can also remove it from this view. So you can kind of use those filters, can be quite handy. Another way to view your time entries is by list, although I'm not a big fan of this way, but it's super useful when you want to actually enrich your data and quickly set some time entries to billable, because this shows a little bit like a log of all the time you've spent, and you can actually add some tags if you wanted to right here. That can be quite useful, quite handy to just click here and add some time. That's it for the personal view of your own timesheet. Say you want to make sure that this person, Diane, is actually submitting their time, but we need to do a double check on the time they're spending on those tasks. And very often in companies, there's a hierarchy where we have teams working together, potentially freelancers you bring in and working on ClickUp, and we have a manager approving for the time, not only for their billing if they're freelancers, but also potentially if they're working intern to your company for billing your clients. You want to make sure that they actually logged all the billable time as billable, that they've logged all those weeks, all those hours spent on tasks. And if you see that there's some days where there's only logging 2 hours, you want to know why, right? There's this approval and back and forth system in ClickUp that I'm going to show you. We're going to get started by first setting the approval rules. As a manager with an admin account, not only can I see the timesheet of everyone, so the time they're spending this week, and if I roll over, I can see the time that was spent the previous week, etc., etc. So this is a demo account. There's no actual useful time spent, just some examples right here, but you can see the time spent as little squares and boxes for all members, and that's pretty cool. And you can filter out your time spent by team. Say you're a manager of a marketing team, you can just use this filter and only people that are in marketing will show up. But the most interesting thing you can do is approve this time. So you can create a chain of approval as an admin. If we get to the approval settings here on the top right, and we get to edit approvers and submitters, we can add submitters and approvers. We have an example here of Lucas being approved by me, Ramzi. But I can also add another person. So I could add Diane, which is the dummy account we're using, and add her right here and have her as being approved by me. And if I have another manager, I can totally set like say Bruce and say it's to be approved by April. I can set a bunch of different managers and have them approving tasks and have like kind of this chain of command of say like 10 freelancers working on projects and a manager approving all their timesheets. I'm going to click save. And here we have a chain of approval set. As you've seen, it's pretty simple. Second thing we can do is set the due date at which we want timesheets. Say we want timesheets on the Monday of the week at 5 p.m. We can set that right here, or Friday, and they will get a notification and an alert in their ClickUp account on setting up timesheets. 24 hours before, they will have an alert to set their timesheet, and 8 hours after, if they haven't submitted their timesheet, they will get a second notification. It's starting to make ClickUp look a lot like those very cool time tracking tools like Harvest, like Time Doctor, ClickUp is really ramping up their game into timesheets and timesheets approval, and hopefully we're going to see this feature improve over time. Now that I've set my timesheet approval settings, I'm going to show you two people submitting their timesheet. We're going to get back to this dummy account, and since now we have a chain of approval, if I were to refresh this account, you're going to see a new button popping up. And now we have this approval button appearing here. This timesheet is actually pending approval. It means I've been submitting it. I can decide to withdraw my submission and submit it again or edit it. Say I'm spending 100 hours. That's weird. That's not normal. If I want to delete some time entries, I can just get right there and delete the entry or change the date. If I wanted to say it was actually on the 15th, this one was actually on the 14th. This one was actually on the 13th. Say I made some mistakes with my time entries and just like adjust it and tweak it. And before submitting it, form approval, do some changes. Okay, say this is billable, and here we go. Maybe I'm happier with my timesheet right now. It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense with all those tasks on Sunday, but it's fine. It was just for the sake of this video. Hopefully you'll have people splitting their time evenly across days. But once I'm happy with my timesheet, all I have to do is click submit for approval and click submit. And then I can move on to the previous week and submit the previous week for approval if I've missed it. I'm going to submit this one as well, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that your team submits all their timesheets for approval. You have notifications helping them, but I'm just doing it on the past weeks for the sake of this example. But thankfully, your team should submit their time by Friday, for example, every single week. Now we have a second account, and I'm going to show you how it looks for another timesheet that we have right here. This one is pending. I can withdraw it again. I can do some changes, set some as billable, and then submit for approval again. Say 95 hours, it's totally fine. And I've done approvals for two people just to show you how, as a manager, I'm able to approve those tasks. To do so, we're going to get back to my manager account that we have right here. And if I were to click to review, let's close this side panel, I'm going to have a bunch of timesheets popping up. So I'm going to have different timesheets, and I can actually have different timesheets for the same week because someone can just add some time logging and then submit another timesheet for approval. That's why there's two for the 13th, for example, which is not super important, but we can actually decide to do a few things. We can decide to approve those in bulk without looking at them. And I can do that and click approve all, select them, and we're done. We can also decide to send them back for requesting changes. Say this one needs changes, the one of the 14th. It's over capacity, it's weird. I'm gonna say, please make sure you're only logging time of the week. It's just an example, and requests are changed. And Lucas will actually be notified and will be informed that they have to make sure their timesheet is set properly. They will receive an email, and we also will have the comment, and we can discuss with our manager on the timesheet. I'll show you that part after. Second thing I can do is actually open up a timesheet right here. And as a manager, I can add or remove tasks from time entries. So I can decide to say, okay, this guy has been working 2 hours on this, but I know we did another meeting. Let's actually build that on this project. On Tuesday, we did another meeting. Let's pick a task. It was related to the analytics. It was a 2-hour meeting, and it was like an analytics review. It was actually not on Tuesday. Let's say it was on Thursday, and click billable and set save. As a manager, I can add a time entry. And this means that without the person doing it by themselves, I can do this and then approve the time entry. And if I click approve here, I can just approve it for them. Second thing I can do if we get another timesheet is request some changes. If I'm not happy with this, I can just say, okay, this is not cool. We don't have time logged on Thursday and Friday. I can just say request time changes, or just communicate with a person on the timesheet and say, Diane, were you PTO Thursday and Friday? And then I can just ask for that and make sure that she wasn't out of office or something. And if there's something weird, if we get to Diane's account and if we click timesheet, we have a little approval icon here with some notifications. And as we can see, we have a little bubble here. And we see that Diane, were you PTO on Thursday? This means I need to have a look at this, and maybe I was out of office or something, and then like say, yes, I can confirm I was, and then either withdraw the timesheet, edit it, and send it back for approval. Or if I'm the manager and she said she was, I can get to a notification. I can confirm I was, okay, she was PTO. So you can just approve the timesheet and then click approve. That means that this time entries are logged for this person. I can just leave this and have in my approvals one last approval to make. You can just tick this one maybe because I'm sure and click approve. As a manager, I can just like go back and forth with my team. If I'm requesting changes, send it to them. And if I'm a team user, I can get to my timesheet. And if I have approvals pending, I can just open them up and I can see that I have changes needed, make those changes if need be, and submit it again. Say I'm gonna withdraw this, and as Lucas, as the user, I can just like say, you're right, I'm spending too much time. Oh, I made a mistake. This one is just on another week, or this one is on this week, actually. Let's change this one to this week and submit for approval again. And again, I can just go back and forth with my team. And as a manager, if I have to review some timesheets, I get back there and this time I can approve it. This is how the approval system works, and the back and forth works between the manager and the user on ClickUp timesheets. Now, obviously, this video is just like a quick breakthrough of how ClickUp timesheets work. If you need a dedicated training on ClickUp timesheets for your team, or if you need us to set up a timesheet system, a timesheet approval system in your workspace, all you have to do is book a discovery call with us at Upsys. We'll go through your need and we'd love to help you set up your ClickUp account and set up a timesheet system, and also save you from paying from different time tracking tools and having people logging time on another software where you actually have ClickUp, where you can save yourself a lot of seats and a lot of subscriptions by using ClickUp and all the features it offers. It offers chats, it offers wikis, it offers timesheets. It just lets you do pretty much all the ops of your company, of your business, and it would be a shame to pay for it and not to use it to its full potential. With that said, I'm going to show you a few things when it comes to reporting your timesheet. I'm going to get to the delivery space right there, and we're going to add a card. This one's going to be a timesheet card. I'm going to add a card right here, and I can search for timesheet. It should pop up, and that's the one. I'm going to add the timesheet card, and this is one way to kind of log the time spent on task by your team. And we have two people here, and the cool thing is I can roll over week to week, kind of like how it's done in the timesheet view, but I have this view as a card in a dashboard. That's the overview of my whole delivery. Very often clients ask me to set up dashboards and cards, and if they're using timesheets, that's the card I like. It gives you a clear overview of who's logging their time, are they logging it properly, and you can always go back and forth with them and tell them, okay, why are you not logging your whole week, for example? This gives you a quick overview of the timesheets without having to go to the actual timesheets hub right here in the left. That's one way to do it. But another way that is much more powerful is going to be about using ClickUp to Sheets. And ClickUp to Sheets is a Google Sheets extension that I've developed. It lets you export all your time entries into a spreadsheet-like format. And I love that because having a spreadsheet-like format just lets you do a bunch of things. If we get to ClickUp to Sheets right there, you can have dashboards on all the time spent on your tasks, for example, by a list. Some of this data is blurred because that's client data, but they're using ClickUp to Sheets and they're able to pull out all their time entries right there as rows into Google Sheets. And with all of this, we can do a bunch of cool dashboards. First one, we can create a dashboard of all the time spent on tasks over time span, maybe the time spent weekly. We can see the time spent by space, by list. Right here, we can see the top 10 tasks we spent time on. We can actually open them and click up. That's pretty cool. We can see the time spent by user, and we have a bunch of cool dashboards right here. You can see like, okay, this client has spent 456 hours over this time span, which is the 18th of March to the 17th of April. 390 billable hours. The average session duration is about an hour. You have all these cool data that you can drill down through. You can also create pivot tables with ClickUp to Sheets and see the time spent by user right here and what they actually worked on. You can see, okay, this person has spent 62 hours on tasks. Let's see what they worked on in April. Okay, they worked maybe half an hour for internal meetings, 8 hours for these clients, 43 hours for this client, and so on and so forth. And having such an accurate data right here in the report is so much more powerful than the reports that ClickUp gives you, because you're able to drill down through this data, and you're also able to import it into another tool like your billing tool. You could bring that data to Zoho Invoice, for example, and create billings to your clients by just importing this log to Zoho Invoice or any invoicing tool you're using, really. This is pretty cool, and this is why you should try ClickUp to Sheets. I'm going to show you a quick example of how it would work if you would start with the ground up with actual data. All you have to do if you want to get started with ClickUp to Sheets is go to the side panel of your Google Sheets and add, clicking the plus button and add on. And you're going to search for one called ClickUp to Sheets. You can just type ClickUp and it should pop up as the first one. You can install it. I already have it installed, and I show you in dedicated videos how ClickUp to Sheets work fully. You can go through my channel and discover how to install it, but it's already installed. You're going to install ClickUp to Sheets, and from there, once you've connected your ClickUp account, you've gotten started, you're either through the trial or you've subscribed to the tool, you can actually export your time tracked. And I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to export my ClickUp time tracked, and then I'm going to pick my workspace. It'll prompt you to just select across the different workspaces you have. Here we have the Hey Ramzi workspace, which is actually the one I've demoed you the whole flow on. And we're going to see some of the time I've tracked on tasks that I've shown you earlier. And as a time frame, I'm going to pick, say, like 1st of December up until the 22nd of April. Okay, cool. I'm going to sync all the time. I don't only want the billable time. Every single time matters. And I'm going to create a report, which is what I've shown you, and drill down tables. And then I'm going to click Export Time Tracked. All of this time tracked, all of this data is going to be written into my sheet in a few seconds. It's pretty fast, takes about a minute. And then I'm going to be able to use that data to either use it for imports later down the line, or report it to my team, report it to the stakeholders, and see the whole time we spent on tasks. Here we go. Our time has been just added to our sheet. So we have all the tasks we've been logging time on, and they popped up here. We can see who's the user actually logging their time on this task, when they logged their time, up until what time, how long it lasted, the amount of hours, and we can have a description right here. It brings in basically the whole data from ClickUp, and we can actually open up the task if we wanted to from there. And basically you get all the data you need as rows as a table. And that is the first step. But then, as I told you, you can drill down through this data two ways. Number one, you can get this dashboard and you can see the time spent, billable time, the average session duration, the top task we've been working on, the hour of the day on which we're logging tasks. You can also get there and drill down through the data user by user. So you can see that Diane has been working 38 hours for this client, 8 hours for Monsters Inc., 8 hours for template project list. Lucas has been working actually 11 hours on April for this client. And these guys been working 8 hours for these clients. We have the whole drill down of our data. We can see how many hours we've been working in total in April. And we can have that over the time span of several months. Having this type of data can be super, super handy. If you're using ClickUp for time tracking, you should check out ClickUp to Sheets. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you got hold of how Timesheets works, how you can speed up your timesheet by automating it through Save to ClickUp, or export it with ClickUp to Sheets, or simply use the timesheets and approval system inside of ClickUp. And if you need help into setting up timesheets, into actually creating the habit of time tracking for your team, into training your team on how to use ClickUp to its full potential, book a discovery call and we'll go through how your business works, and we'll get to understand and speed up your workflows and your time tracking in ClickUp. Until then, have a good one and stay productive.